morning. And welcome to the Judicial Committee meeting. We'd like to ask, if you did not sign in on your way in, please make sure you sign in before you leave. We want to make sure we have everybody's name that's in attendance today. My name is Hattie Burns, and I'm the chair of the Judicial Committee. Thank you all for coming. Let me introduce the committee members to you. On the end, we have Mr. Ethan Ford, who's a member of the committee. We have Dr. Johnny McClendon, who's also a committee member. We have Mr. Brandon Price, council member. We have Dr. Brand, council member. We have Michelle Stanley, our administrator. To my right, we have Mr. Douglas Curtis, council member. We have Mr. Todd Smallwood, council member. We have Ms. Mary Anderson, council chair, and we have Mr. Eddie Kirkley, also a committee member. The purpose of this meeting is to receive input about a curfew for Chesterfield County. But let me start by calling the meeting to order, which I've done, and adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as written?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda as written. All in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Approval of the minutes is the second item. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the minutes. All in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, and motion is carried. Now, the purpose again of this committee meeting today is to discuss a proposed curfew for juveniles here in Chesterfield County. And again, it's proposed curfew. Nothing has been decided, nothing is set in stone. This is just a dialogue to discuss, okay? We're going to start by asking how many law enforcement people are in the audience today? Law enforcement? And we want to give each of you the opportunity, if you have input to give, we want to give you that opportunity. However, to make sure we stay in order, the chair will recognize anybody that wants to speak, okay? Just to keep order, all right? Where do we start? Who would like to be the first to comment? Either the committee or law enforcement. We'll start with you all.
Well, of course, my name is Spence Vaughn. I'm with the Sheriff's Department, and obviously I appreciate y'all being open-minded and to have this discussion to get maybe something in the works of having some sort of a curfew. We know that a curfew is not going to end all be all to fix all the issues that we have, and we're just hoping it might be a layer of enforcement that we can use to help maybe curtail some of this juvenile crime that we're having. It's not only in our community, but it's in everyone's community across the country. You know, our personal belief is that we just want to use this as a form of, if someone's already doing criminal mischief, not necessarily with an incentive to try to track down somebody running late coming home from the ball game or the girlfriends or the movies or something like that. It's to be something initiated when, you know, you get caught breaking in a car, or we get a lot of these calls sometimes where juveniles go to someone's house because they got in an argument on Facebook or Instagram, and they have just a huge knockdown drag out in someone's front yard, or something to that nature. That's sort of our mindset behind it. It's not going to be just singled out in one section of the community. It would encompass our entire county, because we have crime throughout the county. Different communities obviously have more of it sometimes. We have little pockets, but it would be utilized across the board. That's sort of the mindset behind it. if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them, but that's sort of and, you know, we need something. I know parents sometimes are struggling with out-of-control children, and there are some things that we can put in this to help with an avenue for they can reach out to get resources. You know, I've spoken to DJJ, and they have a program that parents go through with DJJ before they can do an incorrigible child. Of course, you know, that involves counseling. That involves parents having to watch a program at DJJ that they have on a computer. You know, before that's things that they have to do before the DJJ can get involved to the extent of, you know, sending an incorrigible child somewhere. You know, but some parents, they don't know what their children's doing. And then we end up having to catch them and charge them with something, and then, you know, sometimes it's behavior that keeps repeating. Maybe it's something that we can use to maybe help change some behaviors. It's really the goal behind it.
I got a comment, that's more the question. When you deal with
Oh,
juveniles.
excuse me, we do want to make sure that we're acknowledged by the chair, so we don't have people just speaking out. I don't mean to be rude,
He
but
asked the question, is there anybody? I'll yield back to you, Chair.
yes, sir. And please speak into the mic, Dr. Brand.
So it's all right to speak now?
Yes, sir.
When you're dealing with juveniles, you have to look at more than a situation of detaining them. Juveniles are certainly a different aspect than someone we call an adult. If you're not careful, these juveniles today, they will retaliate on law enforcement just as quick as they retaliate on someone in the street. And if you ain't careful with these juveniles, you're gonna set the county up, state up for a major lawsuit if one of them get hurt in a detained situation. Parents is just waiting on that opportunity for a law enforcement officer to overaggress a child in a detained situation. So this curfew that the council and the county trying to implement is a curfew to try and get the children off the street at night. But if we're not careful, it could turn into a major problem for law enforcement and the county. So my concern is that these curfew hours that we trying to implement for teenagers off the street at night, I believe that we need to look more into it, because this is just a curfew and it's not a state statute law that will support council, law enforcement, whoever, if a child get combative and law enforcement had to, you know, either defend themselves and may even have to shoot one of them because of their aggressive towards them. You don't want to set ourselves up to have a lawsuit, excuse me, a lawsuit with the county or with the state because of a over-aggressive teenager thinking that they can, you know, overpower law enforcement or whatever. So what we're gonna do, we're holding the parents accountable for these children being out the house at night. And the average child say, oh, my daddy, you know, he's gonna pay my fine, $200, and I'm gonna do what I wanna do. And they back out on the street. What the child gonna have to pay for being out at night? We just gonna pat them on the back and let them go home, or what's going on?
I mean, we can enforce whatever's put in this ordinance that would go along with whatever the child's doing. I mean, I think there may be some examples that other agencies across the state has used that y'all may have to go by. But, you know, just, yeah, you're right. I mean, some parents may pay their child's way, but I mean, that's what they've been doing all along.
That's what they've been doing, and the child gonna be right back out.
But, you know, there's whatever we put in place is something we can charge, whatever that child's doing. And of course, you know, depending on what the child's done, you still have the original state charges that can be charged as well to go along. But,
One
you know,
thing.
as far as getting a lawsuit, I mean, we can get sued whether we have this curfew or not just by doing our normal job every day
Right.
now.
These juveniles are so much different. You fine line with these juveniles.
And to reiterate what I stated earlier, the purpose of this meeting is not to say, to come up with hours for a curfew. The purpose is to determine whether or not we really need a curfew, a countywide curfew. That's the discussion. It hasn't been determined that that is what's needed. And when we talk about juveniles, I know we've talked about, deaths that have occurred. We've had 2 recently in Pageland, 2 in Cache. And when we talk about juveniles, one of those may have been a juvenile, but the other 3 were definitely not. And then when you look at the hours that I've seen in some of these from the towns would not have prevented those deaths from occurring. So it's a lot of things to be considered other than, yes, we need a curfew countywide, and it's going to be between the hours of 11 and 6 or 12 and 6 or whatever the hours are going to be. This discussion is to consider a curfew, but is a curfew the only thing? Is that all that's needed?
Well, I think the shooting obviously is what's created this discussion, but I mean,
Yeah.
before, a week before the shooting, we had a 15-year-old child stealing cars all weekend in Page and Jefferson, breaking in cars, stealing golf carts, way past what we would probably choose as an hour to do it. So that itself would help as a layer of being able to do something and the child weren't 14 years old.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
I would like to hear from all the law enforcement that are here today, the positives of the curfew and what the curfew means for each one of them. I think that plays a lot in a keyhole would be my decision, and because I already know what I want. I mean, I'm for the curfew. I think we've got to do something, but I would like to hear from these guys that are in the field that deal with it daily, every night. They see it. They know what the hours could be. They know the penalties, which is community service for the kids, or painting trash cans or whatever. But I can't sit here because I don't have any law enforcement background, I can't say a definite of what the fix is, but they own the boots on the ground, and I would like to hear the positive that the curfew would be
Yes,
from
sir.
each one of them, if they feel free to speak on it.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Vaughn.
I'm Dean Short, Chief in Pageland. I know some of you I don't. Personally, I've got mixed feelings on the curfew myself. I came from Lancaster City. Y'all know I spent 18 years there. We had a curfew law, but it was and wasn't enforced. And I think personally what we need to do is look around and talk to and do some studies and talk to these other agencies and places to see how much they're doing and what kind of help it's to them. Ours usually run over there, I think it was from like midnight to 6. What we're seeing is, and I know something's got to be done, and we got to do something and take some kind of steps to address what's going on. I think personally a lot of it's a parental problem, and I think that we got to get back to parents being parents, and I think we got to get back to doing some biblical principles again and practicing and following those that we've shied away from. But also with the curfew thing, what I saw and what we're seeing, even with us, one of the last shootings that we had that involved 2 juveniles, again, that was 5:30 on a Sunday evening. Curfew wouldn't have helped that. some of the shootings we have has been around that time. It's been 12 to 1. That's right at where you would do the curfew, you know, whether it be 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night. So I think there's a lot of things that's got to be considered, and we got to look at all of them. And I don't think, personally, a curfew in itself is going to be the answer to it. I think something else got to be instituted to try to help. Again, if there's this curfew, we got to figure out a way, if we're going to do something to address these children, because most of the time what we did in the past where I worked where they had a curfew, the parents were the ones that were held accountable for it. So again, the children didn't have anything to do with it. Well, then that put the parents into it. Parents didn't pay, then we were busy trying to chase parents down, and so it created another problem for us. You know, again, one good part of a curfew is it gives us another legal layer to be out and have a reason to make contact with these children. So again, I think the discussion, and this is great having this discussion, because this is what we need to do, is have an open discussion and everybody put their heads together and prevail with try to get the best answers that we can to address this, because again, definitely something needs to be done. But there's just no easy answer to it. And I think, again, we just got to look at all the steps, and if something is instituted to have a curfew, we got to have it, we got to get the ducks in a row to make sure that it's falling where it needs to fall, and that we're getting the results from it that needs to be, that's going to work, instead of just adding something extra to do that we're just spinning our wheels with. We need to make sure it's something that honestly that needs to work for all of us.
Thank you so much. Any other law enforcement?
Could I ask a question to him?
Excuse me?
Could I ask him one quick question?
Yes.
Don't you guys have a curfew in Pageland now?
No.
Y'all don't? Shane sent me a curfew.
That I was aware of, that we've had one that we've been in for.
Yeah, it's actually in our
Looking
packet.
at it right here, it say from 10 to 5 for Basin.
Yeah, that's something honestly that I wasn't aware of then.
10 to
Oh, okay.
6.
Okay, well, you're the chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So if there was one, you would know about it.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely one.
That's it. It's obviously there's one on the books that I didn't know about that we were
It's
enforcing.
on the books.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
You're right.
Good morning. I'm Tim Knight. I'm the police chief in McBee. I am definitely supportive of a curfew as a starting point. It's not going to be a fix-all, but it's somewhere to get us started. It's going to be tough, because I look back to COVID. We tried to do a curfew, and it was hard to enforce. But it's a good starting point. Legality of it, if it's an ordinance, we're definitely legal on it, and then if there's any state crimes, we can enforce those also. It's not a cure-all, and it's going to be tough, but it's a good starting point, because after midnight, nothing good's going on. There's nowhere open. There's nothing that they should really be out doing, getting mischief.
Any questions?
Yes, may I speak, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I agree with Chief, and as you stated, that's our purpose of being here today. I think we need to have a county-wide curfew, standard operating procedure. It's a start, as you stated.
Yes, sir.
We know it's not gonna fix all problems, but anything is better than nothing. My only concern is, Chief, and I mentioned this to some of my colleagues, I don't think parents should be held accountable for disobedient children, as far as them being disobedient to parents. And I think we need to, before we charge a parent, we need to do some investigation. I've been pastor for 42 years.
Yes, sir.
I know children, I know parents. This is what I do. And there's a lot of good parents out there that unfortunately have a few bad children. And they shouldn't be charged if they're doing their best to maintain that child. They need to be looked at. Each individual case need to be looked at.
Yes, sir.
I know some parents have been hurt by charges that was not warranted to them because they were doing the best to raise their children. Whether it's a single parent or a married couple.
Yes,
Need to
sir.
be looked at further. I think you would agree with that
Yes,
based
sir,
on your
I agree with you 100%.
That's my only
there.
concern. But it need to be done,
Oh, yes.
county-wise. 'Cause anything is better than nothing.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's a tool for us law enforcement to get started.
Okay.
And if you have any legalities, questions, I'm gonna throw them on the spot. We have a Kennard Redmond.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I would like Mr. Redmond to be recognized and get his thoughts. He's probably one of the smartest guys I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
rightfully so. Well, let me do, any other law enforcement would like to speak?
Ms. Burns, we also had the superintendent from the school here as well.
Okay. Mr. Redmond, would you like to speak at this time?
I apologize for my attire today. I'm actually prepping trials and gonna be out in the field with witnesses, so.
We understand.
I was not planning on speaking. But seriously, one of the concerns that Pastor McClendon mentioned is about the parents. And I think it's one of those situations where I agree you have to take everything on a case-by-case basis. Let me stand here and be clear. I am in favor of a curfew. And I'll get into reasons why in just a minute. But as it relates to the parents, one of the things that happens is that if the ordinance is passed, then obviously it's on us to make sure the public is aware of their responsibilities, particular parents, and I'll go a step further, people who are in a supervisory position, and I'll explain that in a little while too, because it's not always parents who are the person that has custody or control or supervision over that child that leaves. So that would be something that I would suggest to be considered. But if there's a parent who reaches out to law enforcement, their child is out, won't come in as incorrigible, there are avenues that that parent has to at least do their due diligence so that they are not found to be in a position where they are being negligent under the ordinance. So there are ways that that parent can protect themselves, him or herself, or a supervisor or guardian can protect themselves in that situation. So I think that point is well taken, and I think from a law enforcement standpoint, we don't want to just willy-nilly be snatching people. We want to make sure that we are, because that's the only way it's going to have credibility. If we just start willy-nilly snatching people without due diligence, without investigation, then we undermine the credibility of the ordinance. The reasons why I'm in favor of it, being a resident of Pageland, obviously we've seen what has happened, not just in Pageland, but Pageland has gotten a lot of the attention lately. And there are ordinances, and here's the thing, when it comes to ordinances, it's not passing them, it's enforcing them. Because as we see, we have ordinances that are on the books. There's several ordinances around that a lot of people don't realize exist. It's a question of enforcement. City of Charlotte, that's the one I was looking at over this week, has an ordinance, a juvenile ordinance, a curfew in place. Looking over it, I can see some holes as it relates to the enforcement aspect of it, and that's the key thing that's going to be required. Anybody can pass an ordinance, a statute, and yes, that's fine, that's a start. But if you cannot enforce that ordinance, credibility is the word that I use a lot. I tend to use ad nauseum because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. We can pass it, but in order for it to have credibility, we got to be able to enforce it. And we got to be able to be prepared to enforce it. And those are things that can't be resolved in a meeting or in a week. It's going to take a process to make sure that we get it right. And I'm more than willing to be involved in that process if necessary to make sure that we get it right, because if the ordinance passes, when it rolls out, we need to make sure it rolls out in a way that the community is aware of what is taking place, what their responsibilities are, so that once we roll it out, hit the ground running, And I think the benefits, we've got superintendent here, the benefits will be not just for the community, but also when it comes to the schools. I think, and let's be honest, we've got growth taking place in areas of the county that we are going to need to make sure we have something in place to protect the communities. Because unfortunately, we are seeing a rash of juvenile behavior that is dangerous and scary to a lot of folks. I mean, one of the things, and here's the thing, and I'll shut up. The thing that I get questioned about most is not, believe it or not, the juveniles themselves. The question I get is about what are you gonna do about the parents? That's the question I get more than anything. That's the question. My mom, who, I'm originally from Hartsville, been living here for 16 years. Matter of fact, this month is 16 years I've been living in Chesterfield County. And my mom at Hartsville, when I talked to her, what are y'all gonna do about the parents? I mean, that's her refrain. And so that is something obviously to take into account. And as I indicated, and I'll close with this, the ordinances I've read are usually specifically related to the parents. But in this day and age, we know that not everybody is in the care and custody of their parents. So the language needs to be effective enough to cover anybody that is in a custodial / supervisory role related to that child. So with that, I'll answer any questions I can, if I can. Otherwise, like I said, I was not planning on saying anything, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or try to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, one question. Would it, Solicitor Knapp, would it be wise, instead of having different city ordinance, to have a county ordinance that would be standardized across the board?
That is a good question, and I am going to punt on that question since that, obviously, you've got towns involved, and I don't want to put myself in the middle of, obviously the towns are entitled to do what they feel they need to do, so I'll respectfully.
Let me tell you why I think it'd be wise, because again, you have one sheriff department for the county, and everybody need to have the same standard, same uniformity. You won't have conflict of interest. And I know in the back of your mind, you agree with me, so we go.
I'm going, as we say in my line of work, I'm going to take the fifth.
Right.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, may I just clarify something for Reverend McClendon? What we could do is, because if the towns have already passed their ordinances, they might have to amend their ordinances. Okay. So we could certainly make them aware of what we have going on and ask them for consideration for an amendment if it's not.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And to make that one step further, if the decision is to do a curfew, if that's the decision, then we would certainly want to include the towns in helping us create the ordinance, because they got to work together, if that's the decision. Okay, Dr. Ballinger, if you'd like.
And I want to apologize for my attire too. When I saw committee meeting, we're not in school today, so I was like, all right, I'll dress a little casual today. So otherwise, I would have had something else on. So I do apologize about that. So when looking at a curfew, I think that one, anytime you get into the late hours in the evening, you have what's called a lack of intervening opportunity. There is nothing for children to do when they're out that late except to get in trouble. And I think that sometimes, especially in communities such as Chesterfield and within our smaller communities, having that lack of intervening opportunity, what we do is we allow our children that are out, or they come up with their own, we leave them to their own devices, and sometimes that's not productive. I think when you look at, from my standpoint, and as far as with educational institutions, you always look at structure and education. What is the structure like? What are your policies? What are your guidelines? What are your rules? What are we wanting to hold everybody accountable by? And then we go into the education piece of, okay, we messed up here, so how can we educate so that we can make this better for the next time? And I think when you look at the structures of a curfew, then you go into how do we then educate our students, our parents, on some of the the benefits of the curfew and/or when you get into some of the consequences of breaking a curfew. I think what that leads to is opportunity. I think that leads to opportunity, and I'm going to talk about a couple things here. Communication and cooperation. When you have a curfew in place and a curfew is broken, it brings an opportunity for communication and cooperation from multiple sources and multiple agencies within a community to come together to help support that family, help support that child, help to bring more resources to the board. Also, it gives that opportunity for intervention. If we know that there are some things going on, what other resources do we have available as an intervention opportunity for that family, for that child, to help with some of the things that they may be struggling with that then allow us to help move them forward. And then I think it also provides an opportunity for supports. You know, if you have that wraparound service and you have those organizations and communities working together, then you have that wraparound service for that child and for that family that can then help take them to the next step. And so I think it's important. You know, I've been in multiple communities where, you know, maybe the county didn't have a curfew, but the town had a curfew. And I support a curfew. If a child's out after 11 or 12 o'clock at night, there's nothing to be done except to find trouble. And listen, we were all children once, and we've all been out after 11 or 12 o'clock, and we all know that, you know, there's not a lot going on. So what do? We come up with things that we want to do. And sometimes that is not productive, and it leads to other things. And I think, you know, also it looks at what is the safety and security for the other residents, you know, for all residents within our county. And so I support a curfew, and I think that when we look at a curfew, you go at it from the structure and the education standpoint as well. And I think it just will take all of our communities and the school system and everybody working together to find supports. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the superintendent? Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment?
Madam Chair, I would like to hear, if he will.
Excuse me. Hold 1 second. I was just asking for comments, if you would just hold that 1 second. And the gentleman was standing. I'll come right back to you.
Good morning.
I'm Jerry Morris. My kids are grown and gone. So you people have a lot on your plate, a lot before you. These law enforcement officers back here, they have a lot on them. You got a little time to make a decision. They often have to make a split-second decision on what they're going to do. But as I got here this morning, I was expecting this place to be full. It's not. I apologize. This place back here should be full of parents this morning. You know, they stand up and they say, well, they have the council meetings during work hours. I can't be there. How many of those parents probably called in sick this morning? How many of those parents took a couple hours off to take a dog to the vet? But yet they can't come and help you guys make a decision on how to handle their children. So if there's going to be something done about it, and you put up fines, jail time, or whatever, I think we're to hit them hard. Got to get their attention that first time. It's not going to be no 1, 2, and 3 and you're out. It needs to be right up front. And probably more of the punishment should fall on the parents. We can't put the juvenile's name in the paper. You could darn sure put the parents' names in the paper for their accountability and hold them to it. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. McClendon.
A strong community pastors here this morning, Dr. Johnny Worthy from Charity Church. He's very instrumental in the community. I would like to hear your response, please, or what you want to add to the conversation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for this meeting this time. I'm Johnny Worthy. I'm pastor of Charity Community Church in Chirot. As a matter of fact, we are actually hosting a meeting, a town meeting on October 18th to further discuss the issue of gun violence and crime amongst our youth in the community. As the pastor there for 7 years now, very concerned with what we see. I attended a meeting in Cache, and it was a great meeting, and we've sent out communications to the law enforcement, school boards, and county council, town council, all of that, so that we can talk about this issue. And I believe that when one of the gentlemen said something about biblical principles, we need to really get back to that. The churches need to really come together and have some dialogue and some conversations and some working together to make things work experiences, because we are actually dealing with both the parents and the children. And until we really come back to the concept and idea that things are done first in the home, I agree with a curfew simply because I know when I was young, as someone said, listen, what is there to do at 12 o'clock? Right? When my grown sons come to my house to visit, you just can't come in my house anytime, right? So therefore, how can we allow 14-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old? Well, it's an issue oftentimes with economics, poverty, parents trying to raise children with multiple barriers, multiple needs. And if they have all these needs, sometimes parents are trying to work and children are out. I know I grew up poor, P-O. We couldn't afford the other O-R. Right? So my mom would have to go to work on third shift. There was nobody there to tell us what to do. So I'm out. Right? Supposed to be taking care of my younger siblings, but I'm out. And so, as someone said, when you're out, there's nothing to do, so you determine what to do. And our little minds doesn't work that way. So we're going to do something we think it's fun, that's crazy. So I think the conversations are great. It's going to need to be an ongoing conversation. However, we need to really talk about some implementation of what it is that need to be done. And that's going to take some collaboration of everyone involved in the entire community to make it happen. So that's my 2 cents worth, and I hope that we can really work together to make this happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else? When the discussion first, at least when I first heard about the conversation of a curfew, it came across to me, the way I interpreted it was because of the weapons, the shooting. But listening to the conversations today, it's more than just the shootings, because when I pulled the report to look at our youth and guns, there have been 131 incidences since July of a gun in some manner, not necessarily a death, but guns. Of that 131 reports, only 15 involved youth. And I won't say youth because when you look at, we're talking about youth, that's 17 and below. So it's not just the 17 and below that's actually involved with these weapons. And that's what came to mind. But again, after the conversation, which again needs to be ongoing, we don't need to do anything today to say we're going, in my opinion, my vote would not be implement a curfew today, because there's a lot of discussion that needs to take place. It's more than just the guns or the deaths that we've had recently. It's a lot of other things that you all have brought to light. Any other committee members?
Council Lady.
Yes, sir.
If you would permit me to speak.
Yes, sir.
Just by hearing you said that, it was in my mind. We looking at the trying to set this at age 18. Wouldn't it be appropriate if we drop the age down to 17 and below? Because at age 17, if law enforcement catch a 17-year-old on the street at night doing something that they don't supposed to be doing, legal, they can actually put them in jail. So should it be 18, under 18, or 17 below?
Well, 18 is considered the adult, so it will be 17 and below. And looking at these other copies of mandates that the towns have is 17 that they're using.
So would they
17
hold the
of them.
parents accountable if they got a child 17 years old on the street at night? Would they hold that parent responsible?
Yes, sir, that's the way they're written.
Wow.
Yes, sir. But again, that's part of the discussion. Nothing's written in stone. That's the purpose of these meetings that we're having now.
You're definitely gonna have a lot of parents that's gonna be very upset because you do, as the gentleman spoke about, this place should have been full today. You got some very good parents that can't do anything with their children. And like Kennard said, you know, parents gonna, you know, they can get themselves out of it by calling in, but it's gonna put a lot on law enforcement. It's gonna put a lot on them. And they got so much to do now. They're just gonna load their plate up with so much more. When you look at this thing, you have to look at both sides of it, and it's gonna be a lot on them. And a lot of them is overworked now, and I'll say underpaid because of the situation that's going on within the communities now. So you have to look at all sides of it. I agree we need a curfew, but you have to look at both sides of it and how it's going to affect law enforcement in doing their job, and parents trying to do the best that they can to raise their children. And you just got some children that just not going to listen to their parents, and they even, you know, disrespect them, and they certainly ain't going to have a knowledge of respect for law enforcement. So, you know, you have to look at all sides of it.
Yes, Mr. Price.
I think it's valuable that you take into account what Solicitor Redmond said. There's legal recourse that can relieve those parents of the children that won't listen. My stance on that, Dr. Brand, is that just because a child won't listen to his parents, he shouldn't be a burden to his community either.
Right.
So if he won't listen to his parents, he certainly isn't going to listen to anybody else. So the only recourse you got is law enforcement, or, you know, to some degree. I think I heard him say that accurately, that there are legal, some type of recourse that a parent, if he can't manage that child, can remove themselves. Did I hear you right with that, Solicitor?
Correct. There are ways that they can do DJJ, things of that nature, as far as booking as a child.
Right.
They can report it, DJJ can become involved, and that actually does help resolve the parent of, you know, their role in whatever the child may do.
I think that's valuable to your specific, you know, concern of a parent that can't manage their child. You know, I think it's valuable that they could do that.
Yeah, the child definitely have to have some type of repercussion. The child do, because if the parent is going to pay their way out of it, then that's not going to benefit the child in any way. So definitely, I think that there should be some type of repercussion for the child to know that, listen, we got this thing set, and you're not going to do what you want to do at this age. So
I agree. I think there should be some repercussion for the kids, but again, this goes into the education part of it. And in my opinion, we're not ready to make that step today to say, yes, we need to do a curfew, we need to hold the parents accountable for these children 17 and under. I've spoke with the sheriff, and he agrees that if we're going to do that, for one thing, they're not going to be, let's take Cash, that's where I live. They're not going to have deputies just riding up and down roads 12 o'clock at night to see who they can find walking the streets. They're not going to do that. But if they happen to see somebody breaking into a car, or if they call that, you know, report somebody breaking into their car, and they happen to be a minor, or if they're not a minor, they're still going to respond. But they're not just going to be riding up and down the street to see who they can find. That's not, in my opinion, the intent of a curfew anyway. You may have law-abiding people, say the guy leaving his girlfriend's house, 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, he watching a movie and they got, they lost track of time. They're on their way home, but it's after their curfew, they're 16 years old. You just gonna stop them and lock them up? It needs to be discussed more than just today. There are a lot of things we need to look at. And how we're gonna patrol the entire county with the deputies that we have? Are we gonna have to hire new people? Again, it's more than what's gonna be determined or decided today, in my opinion. So I think it's a discussion we need to have ongoing. I think we need to make sure that it's advertised really, really well and get these parents in here so they can ask questions and help lay this plan out. We all need to take ownership in it because it affects all of us. Any other comments?
I do. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a comment if it's okay. I've sat here and thought of several things I'd like to say and give my input. I'm in favor of the curfew. But I think it's important to remember as we have these discussions, we need to get it right, but I don't think that's a 6-month process either, just my opinion. I think 6 months to sort this out is somewhat irresponsible on our part as adults that are responsible for our children. This is not a magic wand. This is not going to fix every problem. It's not going to solve every problem. It's not going to give any sort of magic powers to law enforcement. It is another layer. And to me, the information you gave, Madam Chair, was great about the statistics, about the percentage of gun violence and things like that. I don't think it's about gun violence, but even if it is, I think it's about our children as a whole. And what we might be able to remove 2% away from that might keep that 2% safe is worth the effort because they're our children. And if we can't, are we going to overburden law enforcement a little bit? Probably so. But if we can't overburden you guys to keep our kids safe, then what can we ask you to do, right? I mean, that's the way I feel about it. I don't want to put more burden on you, but there's nothing we do every day, in my opinion, more important than our kids. So I don't know the answers. I don't know who we hold. I mean, I've talked too long now, but we just have to, if we can take 15 gun incidences, if we could put something in place to take 3 of those out, is it not worth the effort? Again, I'm not big into government overreach and trying to do parenting for our public, but sometimes you have to get involved and put things in place to make it a little bit easier for the parents. I think there's a certain percentage of our parents that maybe have trouble handling kids that this might actually help them. Maybe not, but I don't know what the negative to that is. Of all the things we've heard, I know it's got challenges, but I haven't heard really any good reason not to consider it, in my opinion. And with that, I'll just be quiet. Thank you for the time.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So, kind of piggybacking off what Mr. Smallwood said, I've put a lot of thought into the curfew, and just like with the last incident where the little boy got killed, I often wondered if we would have 7 juveniles in DJJ right now if we had had a curfew in place. I don't think that it would have stopped it. I don't think that this is a fix-all. I don't think that this is going to curtail all of that. But I want to be reasonable enough to say there's probably 1 or 2 of those juveniles that's in DJJ right now that their parents may have said, you're going to be home by 11 o'clock and you're not going to be out and about. So that's the ones that I see. We don't have a kid problem. We got a parent problem. And it's a sad day when we have to sit in here and dictate things to make parents be accountable. If you own a dog at your house and your dog gets out and goes and bites a neighbor, you more than likely will be criminally charged for what that dog does.
That's good.
So in my opinion, it is ridiculous to not hold these parents accountable. I get that there's parents that have children that just absolutely cannot be controlled, but there's already measures in place that we can absolutely educate these parents and say, okay, if your child cannot adhere to your home rules and they stay out past the curfew, this is the process. You need to notify this person, and this is the avenue that you have to do. It's just hard for me, it's hard for me to not see the benefit. I don't think it's a burden on law enforcement. Law enforcement is sitting here asking for it. It's not like we're imposing something on law enforcement that they don't want. They want it. If they didn't want it, we wouldn't be here. So for us to have these professionals, school superintendent, everybody here, I don't know that in my opinion, I don't know that the decision from the professionals hadn't been made. The decision that hadn't been made is the details of what it entails in the curfew. That's my opinion. But we got to do something. We shouldn't even have this conversation. If parents were doing their job at their house, this wouldn't even be a thing. And as far as I understand the side that Dr. Brand spoke to early on about legal repercussions and things like that. I almost really feel like that we live in a society that cares too much about what could happen, and I understand that aspect of it. But you know what? If a parent is waiting on their kid to screw up, to get in an altercation with law enforcement, and out there letting them do what they do, and they get in something with law enforcement and they want to sue us, so what? At the end of the day, the kids don't run the street. They don't run our communities. That's what we're here for. Because right now they are running the street. They are running our communities. And the parents ain't doing what they're supposed to do. So, you know, if they're sitting back wanting a reason to sue the county, tell them giddy up.
Just one last statement, Council Lady, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
What percentage of crime is going to stop in setting this curfew at 11 or 12 o'clock? Because most of the crime for these juveniles, it's not after 12 o'clock. You have more crime with juveniles during the early night hour and even in the day. I'm for the curfew, but what I feel that we need to come up with some type of solution to try and stop this. I know we're trying to get the curfew passed. I'm for it. Let's do it, you know. But what it's going to take to stop the violent crime for these children? I mean, look at the statistics. You had one the other night, and we do understand that. But what hours of the day and night did these violent crimes taking place? The number ain't after 12 o'clock. The number is in the early hours of the night, in the evening, even mornings. So if we pass the curfew today, is that gonna stop?
No.
What's going on?
We know that's not gonna stop it, but
But what, I mean, you know.
Can't regulate your way out of this position.
Madam Chair, just so you know that the Ministerial Alliance discussed this, and whenever it do pass, we all in agreement with it that we need one. And I like what you said earlier, and Ms. Anderson kind of clarified. Let us get with the manager of the cities, the county, the mayor, whoever we got to talk to. Try to make it uniform across the board if we can, but it need to take place. And I'm agree with Smallwood. I don't think it's a big issue where it need to drag out. I think it need to take place as soon as possible. Not today, but I don't think we need 2 or 3 more meetings on it, because we just trying to pass it. All this other stuff gonna work itself out. I like to deal with the matters at hand. That's how I resolve problems.
Well,
You deal with that, then you go to something else. But as Ethan said, your law enforcement behind it, I mean, they made that very clear. We as a Ministerial Alliance, we behind it, and the council need to get behind it. Let's make it happen.
well, let me just mention one thing. The purpose of the committee, of course, is to have the meeting and make a recommendation. This committee is not going to do anything except recommend to the full council. Full council is what's going to make the decision.
We understand that, that's what we refer to.
I just want to make sure everybody understands, this committee itself doesn't have that authority. All we do is report or recommend to the full council, and the full council makes the decision. Mr. Smallwood?
I just want to say something briefly, and I just want to touch on what Dr. Brand said. That you said one of the most accurate things just now that we've discussed today, and this is just one piece of a bigger puzzle. We've got to keep having these discussions because this is, again, like I said a while ago, it's not a magic wand, but this is an ongoing issue that the curfew, there's a lot of issues to keep our kids safe and our community safer that this curfew won't touch. I still think it's a great idea, but it's one piece, but you're exactly right. We've got to keep having these discussions at the community level, at the county level. We've got to keep moving forward. I don't know what the answer is, but I know we've got to talk it out. We've got to figure it out. Because what we're trying to protect here is worth it. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair. I don't know that if this is a recommendation or how we need to do it, but to me, sitting here listening to everybody, I don't know that we can make these formative decisions of a time, of age, at this table. I believe that's their job. They're going to enforce it. So for me, I would like for maybe Spence to get a team together of his peers, with the reverends, and collaborate and get a curfew together. I mean, they want it, so they'll make it happen in a timely manner and bring it back to the Judicial Committee for us to review it and then send it to council if the Judicial Committee sees fit.
Okay. What I would suggest is that we make the recommendation to the council. The council would determine whether or not, as a full council, this is something we move forward with. Our chair, I'm assuming, would leave it in the hands of the Judicial Committee to work with. And you speaking of Vince, Vaughn, Vaughn, Mr. Vaughn, it needs to be the sheriff. Not
And I'm
Mr.
fine with
Vaughn.
that.
It needs to be the sheriff and any other law enforcement chiefs, the superintendent, the pastors, whomever needs to work on that committee along with the Judicial Committee to come up with that plan if that's the way council chooses to do. It's not my decision, but that would be my recommendation. So if there are no other comments.
Can I make one final statement? There's a few things that was said here today that I just want to be clear. That has nothing to do with the county council. When it comes to spiritual guidance, spiritual counseling, spiritual interacting with parents and family and community, the pastors that I'm aware of are engaged in that. That's just some things here we not gonna be able to resolve. They're left for the man and the woman of God and their congregation to resolve. And we will work diligently, I'm speaking as a pastor now, along with Pastor Worth and other pastors in the community, we work, and your pastor, we work diligently on doing that because we're having those conversations with young parents, single parents, and we're talking about these issues that require guidance from a spirituality level, not from a county level. I just want to make that known.
Okay.
I got one thing. I think it would be it'd be worthy of our time. I'd like to make a motion, actually. I'm gonna make a motion that we take a vote on pushing this as a recommendation to move forward to full council. And in the meantime, ask county attorney, along with the leaders that are here on behalf of law enforcement, school district, solicitor's office, let them before the next council meeting come up with the time and the stipulations along with our county attorney so full council can make a decision at the next council meeting. And I put that in the form of a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second, and I'll let you state that motion again to make sure.
My motion is that we send, the committee send a recommendation to full council for the next council meeting of a curfew. In the meantime, have the county attorney and all the officials involved in the details of it, and full council can either vote on it or deny it for another meeting.
It's been moved and second that we recommend to council that we pursue a curfew with the understanding that the county attorney, law enforcement who would like to be involved, pastors, superintendent, work on a committee to formulate a recommendation to be brought back to
Full council, the
the
next
full
full council
council's
meeting.
next meeting.
For a vote.
However, we have a special meeting planned for October the 24th, so this recommendation would be made at that meeting. Am I correct? Okay. So the recommendation would be made on October the 24th at the called special meeting for that purpose. It's been moved and properly second of what I just said. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Just a point of clarification for everybody, because this would be an ordinance that requires 3 readings. So when we vote on this, either yea or nay, on the 24th, it will still have additional readings for input, and that's when we would be doing that. I just want to make sure everybody understands.
I got a question about that. That is true in that case, but isn't there an emergency ordinance, is my understanding, that could be done sooner?
Yes.
Yes,
We could do it that way. There are different options, but I just wanted everybody to understand that.
I'd like to see emergency ordinance personally, but that's just me.
So emergency order means you don't have to have 3 readings?
Correct.
Right, so that might need to be an amendment.
Would you like to explain that?
Could I amend my motion before we vote to add in, to make a recommendation to consider emergency with the difference in the majority vote from full council for the emergency?
You may amend your motion, yes.
All right, I'll make that amendment.
I'm not gonna try to restate it. Everybody's heard it.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any further discussion?
Madam, the only discussion I got is the 24th. I mean, is that gonna give y'all enough time to collaborate, get together? It's the only thing I got, madam.
It's been moved and properly second and discussed. All in favor of the said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and motion is carried. So, there will be a meeting October the 24th, 9:00 a.m. here in this room. Please feel free to attend, and those of you who will be working on that committee.
Also, I'd like to ask the link to make sure they publicize that for the public as well.
So,
What time is the meeting?
that meeting on October 24th is for the council to make a decision as to whether or not we're going to move forward. So they don't have to have those recommendations by that time. The council hadn't made a decision yet.
No, that wasn't my motion.
Well, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
we would need the committee to go ahead and meet prior to and come up with that. We may need to have, we'd have to have them meet. We have to have that on there, what that's going to look like for an emergency ordinance. We can't just say it's going to be a curfew, we're gonna have to have the times, at least the times.
So with that in mind, then, could this committee meet before the 24th? And you're welcome to meet in here
I have to.
if you'd like to. Would you all reach out to Michelle and set up whatever, if that's okay? Whatever day and time you all would like to meet? And thank you so much for your assistance in this.
Now, I know the council chambers are taking up the 14th and 15th,
Don't we need to meet with them?
Could,
so it won't be available. The 14th and 15th, someone's already in here.
could we clarify, just for the record, that we're going to have the sheriff's office, the local municipalities, along with any minister that would want to be involved in that, along with Solicitor Redmond, if he shall donate his time,
Along with the superintendent, all of you,
and the superintendent,
if you
exactly.
would like, if you would be so willing to serve on that committee,
Please.
we would appreciate it.
I have one question. Is it possible you all can meet the 20th or the 21st? That's the week before that. That's the meeting on 24th. Are y'all available 24th? I like to be at the meeting. And next week I'm gonna be gone. So you have to meet next week. All right, so moved.
Next week would be better because the next couple of weeks after that are going to be
Yeah. Next week is good for them.
So the 17th,
You wanna do
17th.
9 a.m.? You okay with 9 a.m.?
Sure.
On the 17th?
Okay, what time on the 24th? No, I know, but I'm asking what time on the
9.
24th?
It's like a regular council meeting.
9 a.m., okay. 17 is 9 a.m.
So the 17th is at 9 also? Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So move.
It's been moved and properly seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you all so much for coming out, and